Hi and welcome to SQL Server 2008 R2 two-node active cluster configuration series. In this series, we will be configuring a cluster on a single Hyper-V setup to validate how it works, what are the safeties you should take when you implement it in production. You'll not only be configuring a normal SQL cluster, but we will be configuring a domain controller. We'll be learning how to use the Hyper-V differential disk feature. We will configure a storage controller, the Windows clusters till we reach the SQL Server 2008 R2s done on a single Office box. And with the Office box, the idea is to have a box which is given to you in the office and given to you with Windows 7, and you want to try it out Hyper-V. Now, normally the Windows doesn't support having a Hyper-V environment, and we will see how we can use this box to configure the complete Hyper-V setup. Before we begin, let's go back to the last series where we did for SQL Server Denali high availability with CTP1 with two-node clusters to see how Denali high availabilities are different. So let me go to my website sqlfeatures.com. Here is my website sqlfeatures.com, where you can see how we prepared the one box virtual lab to evaluate SQL Server Denali always on features. In this series of videos, there are 12 videos, including 2 videos for Denali high availability explained. And what we did here is we did a Denali setup and network configuration as first video. In second video, we configured a domain controller. In third video, we prepared the failover cluster nodes. In fourth video, we configured two-node failover clusters. And then we installed the standalone Denali on both the nodes. Even though they are part of the failover clusters, Denali was installed as a standalone instance. In the series 6 videos, there are 3 videos where I explained what are availability groups and how Denali high availability is different than the comparative technology available in SQL Server 2008. And once we are done within part 7, we configured the availability groups with 2 sets of DB servers. Configure a readable replica, test failover, and implement a test virtual name. If you go down, you can go through each and every video sessions, and that will give you a fair idea that how we have earlier configured network configurations. So based on the feedback, there are a couple of things which we will be doing differently in this set of videos, which is how do we use an office laptop or desktop to install Windows 2008 R2 SP1 Hyper-V, to install Windows 2008 R2 SP1 Hyper-V setup, to test the same kind of a setup but without affecting the existing laptop's availability to use Windows 7, which is provided by the company. We will be implementing some of the good practices which you will be doing when you install a SQL Server 2008, like using a normal domain user account to configure the complete SQL Server setup as well as the Windows cluster if you have to. So let's look at this. What do we have in this set of videos? Now in the part 11, we'll prepare Windows 2008 R2 VHD, which will boot from Windows 7. So basically there you will be learning how to create a VHD within Windows 7 and configure it, and then you can boot from that VHD, and you do not have to format any of the machine drives or change any settings of Windows 7. In next videos, we'll talk about booting with that machine and how to configure the Hyper-V on that machine and what is the normal networking configuration we will do. Part 30 will create a parent VHD, a base Windows 2008 R2 SP1 installation, which will have all the service pack and basic configuration configured, which will be used as a base hard disk to all the 3 virtual machines we will use. So all these 3 virtual machines will use a differential hard disk to keep only the changes needed for other than the normal OS setup. So that's what we'll do in part 13. And in part 14, we'll talk about configuring Windows 2008 R2 domain controller. This is more or less same as what we have done in Denali high availability setup in video 2, so you can check there as well. I'll just copy paste same thing, and we are not making any changes much to that. In part 15, we will configure our SQL controller to configure the SAN storage. The domain controller machine will be used for SQL controller as well. Once we are done with that, we'll prepare some basic things for the failover clusters, like configuring what all the users we need to have it, what all other settings we need to be careful to configure a successful cluster. That's a prerequisite steps. On part 17, we'll configure a 2-node Windows 2000 R2 SP1 failover cluster on both sides, validate it. On part 18, we'll install the SQL Server failover cluster on node 1, making sure that do the basic configuration. Okay, so on part 19, we'll add a SQL Server node 2 to the cluster, and we'll talk about making it active passive, and we'll validate it there. And in part 20, we'll configure the second SQL Server installation to make it a real active cluster. Failover works as expected. Alright, let's jump on to the part 11. So prepare Windows 2008 R2 VHD to boot from Windows 7. Here are the there will be very minimal change into the company Windows 7 desktop or laptop which you'll be using. As long as you have administrator access to the desktop, which you usually have being a DBA, so you'll be able to make those changes. That you would need to have at least 4 GB of RAM because you'll be running 3 VMs at the same time. And dual core CPU would be the minimum. If you have 4 core or 8, that would be the best. And you'll be needing around 60 plus GB of free space. So let's see what we will do in this video. So suppose this is your desktop where you have a disk layout like C drive is used for Windows 7 OS, and if you have any other drive around 60 GB free, that's sufficient. Otherwise you can install on C drive. All you are doing is you are creating a dummy file called VHD of disk space, so you'll be occupying that space, and basically in that space you'll be doing all the installation as well as booting it from that space, so and there's nothing changed into the existing operating system configuration. So to start with, what you need to do is to go to the link which you see here or search for download Windows Server 2008 R2 with Service Pack 1. You'll go to the TechNet and download the evaluation version. But this version will help you for 180 days. And once we are done with that, we'll prepare a Windows 2000 R2 SP1 VHD within Windows 7 on that VHD space what we're creating. And finally, we'll boot from this VHD and do the very basic configuration. I'm at my desktop. We are running a Windows Media Center, Windows 7. So what I'll do is I'll first go to the disk management to see my disk configuration. Here are all these drives are there. What I'll be doing is I'll click on action and click on create VHD, browse, and on the D drive I'm creating this file, so I'll give it a name W2K R2 SP1 boot VHD, and I'll save it. I'll make it fixed size. We'll give it a size of 15 GB to start with. That's good enough to install. So you click OK. So right now, as you can see, it's creating virtual disk. Let's wait for us to finish the virtual disk creation. We're back. The virtual disk is created. Now we'll click on refresh to have that virtual disk available to us. Okay, so what we do is we'll click on initialization disk. Just say okay. Since the disk is initialized, go ahead and create a new simple volume. I'll create it under the X drive. So the disk is available. Let's go and validate it. The X drive is available. The space is there. Now let's go to the Windows 2008 R2 SP1 disk which you downloaded from TechNet, and what I'll do is I'll attach it to one of the virtual drives I have. If you don't have a virtual drive on your machine, then you can install either a daemon tools or look for Ultrias. So you'll mount it to the drive edge. Now let's go to the drive edge to what you need to do is to copy the source folder from this DVD and paste it on C drive. As you can see, it's like 2.88 GB. Alright, the sources folder is there, so you have all the files there. Now what you need to do is to go to internet and look for the file called install Windows Image PowerShell script. So Here is the link. It will be available in the description of this video, so you can paste it from there. So I already pasted it here, and this is where you see that this there. Just save this file to the source folder which you created. So I put it save as. I go to C drive, sources, and I save it right there. So this is the only thing which we need to download. We are done with Internet Explorer, so we'll close it. Now we need to open the PowerShell. So as an administrator, so this is what. Let's do that. So once you see that, right click and choose the option run as administrator. Now you have to run first the command to allow PowerShell to execute your next step. Alright, just click Y. Yeah, good. Now go to the location CCD sources. Okay, so now here you are executing the PowerShell script which you just downloaded. What you say is Windows installation media folder is this. This is, and you apply index equal to 3. That is like the third option when you start the installation, which is Windows 2008 R2 SP1 full installation. And your destination is X drive, which we just created, VHD. Let's see. So click on R capital R, so it will run it for the once, and it takes around 15 minutes to complete it. So once this is done, I'll be back. We are back. As you can see that it took around 4 minutes to finish this. Let's go and check the drive, how it is looking. I'll go to the X drive, as all folders have been created, so X drive is all set to be booted. Now we have only created the VHD drive. We have not still configured the Windows 7 to boot it from this. So what we need is a boot option to be added here. And to do that, what we'll do is we'll use a utility called EasyBCD. So let's go to the internet and see where is the location. Easiest way to go to Google and type EasyBCD 2.1. That's what right now the latest version is. It's created by New Smart Technology. It's free for the personal use. As long as you're not using it for commercial, you're allowed to use it. Go back down. There's an option, download free for internet, not commercial use. You can put your name and click on download, so you'll download it. Once you install it, you will be seeing an option on your desktop. Let's double click it. Okay. Click on view settings. This is what you have. Go ahead and click on edit boot menu. As you can see, I already have 2 boot drives. This Windows 7 is also one of the boot options here. But now what I'll do is I'll add another new boot entry. But hey, I just created the VHD image and it's still attached to the drive. What I need to do is to detach it so that that VHD can be used here as a boot option. So we'll again go to diskmgmt.msc to start disk management, and we'll detach that VHD drive as an X drive what we created. So let's go there. This is a 15 GB drive. Right click and say that detach VHD. Do not click on delete VHD. So you detached it. Now that VHD, we will select it here. Go to the drive. This is the file we created. Let's give it a very good name. Okay, so that's the name we'll give, and just click on add entry. Once you're done with that, go back to the edit menu. As you can see, this entry is there. The moment you click, it will become yes. I normally change it to 5 seconds. So save the settings. The moment you say bootloader saved successfully, you are good. Close it and you are done. This is where the basic preparation of VHD is done. So now we will reboot this machine, and since the startup is set to the VHD, it will automatically log on to the VHD machine. So what I'll do is I'll restart the machine, and once the recording will be starting once we have access to the Windows 2008 R2. So some of the screens which you will say keep using Nest, and you'll do the very basic configuration of Windows 2008 R2 here. Alright, I'll see you in a bit. So we are back. The machine has rebooted and the Windows 2008 R2 SP1 was installed. Some basic questions were asked. Will be asked is uh, it will slowly install it 2-3 times. It will reboot it, and then finally it will ask you to put the login password as well as the key and ignore the key section. So it will keep moving on, and you'll get it for 180 days. So once you're done with that, you'll get back to the Windows Cluster node, and let's see what settings we need to configure on a default 2008 R2 Windows. So here we are back on Windows machine which just got rebooted. What you're gonna do is drag this toolbar here. I keep it as a standard practice. Okay, all right. So we are into the system back, and this is the initial configuration once you log on. So let's move this toolbar here just for the configuration's sake. And first you need to do is to enable remote desktop. Click on allow connections from computers running any versions. I usually access it from my laptop as well. So okay. Then run it on Windows Firewall. Do not make any changes at this point. So the first change we will make is to change the machine name. What we want to put it as. Alright, so this is what the machine name will be putting. Go ahead and let's change it. Close, just restart later. What you want to do is to enable the automated updating. Enable it, download and install updates. This is the first time. We have 28 updates here. Let's see which version did we install SP1 or not. WinVer to see the version 2008 R2 Enterprise, and we are on SP1. Seems there are good enough updates are available. We update it as well as IE9. Keep clicking it. It's good to keep your machine up to date. Let's go to the optional and see what we have here. Network cards usually I don't install because my network is looking good here. But if you see that network is not working for you, in that case, make sure you have the network driver and you install it. That's the only thing most probably I believe you'll be needing it. Other than rest of the things, even if you don't find the driver, it's fine because all you're testing is VHD. Say okay, and let's install the updates. Alright, so we are back and most of the features are updated. So let's see. We got the right machine name, what we wanted. Activation is not possible. We'll look into some of the features. Check again, download and install to see if any other updates are pending. As you see, only 13 optional updates. In fact, I'll go ahead and accept Realtek. I'll install rest of the update as well since we're just testing it here. So meanwhile updates are going on. Let's go to the networking and give a good name here. The name we'll give is HyperV, so it's HyperV physical NIC. Once we install HyperV, we'll see some changes here. Okay, so we'll install .NET 3.5, click the necessary features. I'm fine with having the desktop experience, so I go ahead and do that. As this machine is purely used for Hyper-V, there won't be much needed. Still, as a default, I am going to install Telnet client. Windows PowerShell integration is always a good idea to have. And that's about it. If you have the laptop, then probably you want to enable the wireless LAN features. I don't have it, still I install it just in case. Perfect, so we are installing it. At the same time, the updates are going on. So this update is around 2-3 times the machine will be rebooted and you'll be making some basic changes. What we are trying to do here is that preparing particular VHD in a stage which we can use it later for other installations and use it as a Windows base image also. So we don't have to do this whole exercise again when we are creating the parent image for all the rest of the VMs. Okay, click no. Let's wait for these updates to be finished and then we'll restart the machine. Do not click on OK. It will restart the machine and we want all the updates to be done. So once we are back, there will be a couple more updates we will be doing. Okay, let's check if update is completed. Update is completed, so restart now. The machine will be restarted. Alright, we are back after the updates. We can see all features are implemented, so we'll go ahead and click on close. Let's go ahead and check if there are any other updates we need to worry about. Click review updates. I'll be selecting these to update in the optionals as well, just to make sure that all the updates are there before we make this as a base image. So we'll say try again and we'll wait for this update to be completed. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and configure IESC. Just disable them. This is our HyperV servers, so we don't want to waste time on adding sites to internet. Let's install the virtual CD-ROM drive, which we'll be using to do the installations later. Search for Ultra ISO. As you say, click on the download link. You'll see first English. Click on the download this one. So this is a trial version which you're using right now, and that's why. Alright, that's CNET ISO Pro PXE. Let's save in your computer configuration. I usually keep under restore data. We'll save it and run it. The whole idea is it's a 15 days review version, so all we need is the CD-ROM drive for the next 15 days. Let's install the Ultra ISO which we downloaded. Let's install it. Let's exclude everything and say next. Install now. Create this. Associate Ultra ISO with the ISO extension. Set up emulator. This is what ISO drive is what we will be using later. Well, I said launch Ultra ISO and say finish. So here you say continue to try, and there you go. Go to options, configurations, and click on console. There is a OneDrive already configured. So we are done with our first need, and now let's do some basic things like Adobe Reader, needing that, and also we'll get the Flash player as well. Same time when these two are installing, let's install Java runtime as well. This is the basic stuff we are installing, just to make sure our computer has the basic stuff installed to play some normal contents. Okay, at the same time, let's install the EasyBCD here as well, which you downloaded in another place. The reason I'm here that now I will be changing it to boot to the Windows 7 what we had before. We'll boot into the Windows 7 and the image which we created, this VHD will take a backup of this VHD, as this we will be using as the base image later on. Alright, our Adobe installation failed for some reason. It doesn't complain. So as a step, now we are all set. Our basic configuration is set up. I do have a drive which is a J drive, which is basically used by Ultra. So any ISO image you want to implement, you can mount it like this. Select the ISO file here, and that's it. It will be inserted here. So we're good. This box is almost all ready. There might be one update. So what I'll do is I'll restart once again, and we'll see if there is any update is needed here. So we are back after the reboot. The same screen. Let's check if there are any other Windows updates are pending. One optional update. This one, network card. I purposefully left it. So we are back, and as you can see, let's close all these experiences. Add features, we have already. Roles we do not have to enable. We're not enabling HyperV role right now because I want to take the backup of this file which we have used. So if you remember that on G drive, this is the file, is basically our VHD drive, right? This is the 20 GB file which we created, and we are booting with this VHD file, and all these changes which we made here are actually incorporated here. So what we will do is we'll boot into another partition and basically take the backup of this. I'll start the BCD program which we installed last time and make sure that we are booting into Windows 7 now. Windows 7, change this from 30 seconds to 5 seconds. We save the settings. So this time we'll boot on Windows 7. Let's restart. So with this we are done with our SQL Server 2008 R2 2-node active cluster configuration part 11, where we prepared a Windows 2008 R2 SP1 VHD to boot from Windows 7. So in the next video we'll log on to Windows 7 and basically take the backup of this VHD to be used as a base drive, and the second thing what we will do is to log on back with the VHD and install the HyperV configuration. Thanks for watching this video. Leave any comments, feedback you have. Do the subscription if you like it, and we'll see you in the next video soon.